Hey guys, I'm Dr. Josh, and welcome to the Premier Life Podcast. Today, we're going to be diving into something that I think every parent could use to hear. So, if you're a parent, sit down, settle in, because I think we're going to have some really awesome stuff coming with this podcast, especially now that we're moving out of the school year and moving into the summer. Because a lot of people don't realize that this can be way more than just fun in the sun and also struggles with keeping routine. I feel like when with parents that are in here, as we're in those transitional phases, which are always hard, let's just be real, but they're in those transitional phases and they're like, oh, man, okay, here comes summer, like we've got to get ready. And I want to help you guys see like this can actually be a massive area where your kids can actually really create natural rhythms and routines, and how do we actually play a role in that? So let's start with some of the hard things. Let's start with the say bad news first. But let's be honest. Like our kids' health is in our country in general is it's low. It's been on a drastic decline for years. And especially when we look at behavioral issues, emotional regulations, even neurologic conditions, like things are not doing what they should be doing. And according to the CDC out of 2023, 1 out of every 5 kids is diagnosed with a mental, emotional, or behavioral disorder. And there's actually over 7.3 million, I'm going to say that again, 7.3 million children in the US are on some kind of psychiatric medication. That is wild. And they're taking these drugs, and these drugs are designed to manage either behavior, mood, or emotional irregularities. So our kids are struggling with regulation. They are struggling with finding a healthy their pattern or rhythm. I really like the rhythm. I really like the phrase rhythm. We're going to talk about that. So when we're seeing these rises in anxiety, depression, ADHD, autism, like there are so many contributing factors to what's going on, but a large part of it is also because our kids are lacking space in their lives to just be kids. I mean, parents, look at how many parents out there like look at their kids' lives and it's like so routine. It's so stuck in like, well, this day we have this, and it's at this time on Tuesday we got to do this, and then after that it's this, and then after that it's this, and then we have to do this thing, then we have to do this thing, and guys, there's routines can be healthy, but they also can create like negative changes as well. So my hopes are like, how do we help create healthy rhythms versus sticking to really rigid routines? And now here's what's great is like when it comes to summer, what I want to, one concept I want to hit on is some unstructured play. So what I mean by that is we're freeing our kids from these hardcore routines that they're stuck under. You go to school, it's like, get up, you have to get to school by this time, you have to eat, you have to sit in a class for X number of hours all day, listen to this subject, listen to this subject, listen to this subject, get this done. We have homework, we have exercise, we have sports, we have whatever activities, and then what are we doing? Spending 30 minutes of quality family time together? Like I don't know. I don't see how that can actually create a lot of good. And so like what I want to introduce you guys to do is this unstructured play where like kids are having space to learn how to go through these natural rhythms. So when you just leave them alone and you let them kind of do their thing and let kids be kids, what's great is they're seeing that during these times where you're just letting them play and letting them go, they're activating different parts of the brain that create massive impact later. So for instance, like when we look at our brains and how it's activated with kids during unstructured play, there's an area of our brain, it's called the default mode network in the brain, which it becomes more active. So this network is responsible for daydreaming, creativity, imagination, and internal reflection. Okay. So this area of the brain, this process, it's got different parts of the brain that are working together, right? This and the subconscious brain are both heavily involved in processing memories, beliefs, sense of self, and they're active when the brain is not focused on an external stimulus. So guys, The reason I bring this up is we think of most people think of their subconscious. They know what that is. Your subconscious is what your body's doing when you're not thinking about doing things, AKA your patterns. I've done this many times where I get in the car and if I'm not thinking, I'll drive just straight to work and I'll go, how did I even get here? And the reason that happened is my subconscious took over because my body, my life's patterns took over. This same area of the brain that's regulating those things, it's helping strengthen your subconscious. It's helping create healthy rhythms and healthy patterns. And they're also seeing that unstructured play improves executive function, social regulation, and emotional control. So executive function is a set of cognitive processes. So it's primarily located in our prefrontal cortex, which if you guys have probably heard about that region of the area before, but that's where we have reasoning, logic, that's where we have higher level thinking. So this area also, when they're engaged in this, it helps them with planning, executing, monitoring goals, directed behavior. Okay, so these functions are essential for various daily life activities like planning and organizing and problem solving. So hear that, right? If you let your kids engage in unstructured play, you're allowing your kids to become a better planner. They're learning how to create their own system. They're learning how to create their own plan. And according to a study out of the University of Colorado, children who engage in more free play actually show greater self-directed executive functioning. So that means the kids that are engaging in this are learning how to create their own patterns and create their own rhythms versus us as parents doing it for them. Now don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying to just let your kids go free. I think that there's things that we can recognize in order to help them set healthy patterns and healthy rhythms. But when we have such a rigid schedule, it creates stress. It creates stress not only on the kids, but on us. And here's the hard truth when it comes to stress on the parent is whatever stress we are experiencing, that becomes their stress. And there's plenty of there's a lot of research that supports this, but one particular research article out of the University of Maryland that shows that children mirror the stress patterns of their parents, especially during transitional phases like school to summer, like going from school to summer and then summer to school and then breaks. They mirror our stress patterns. So parents, this is another thing that you have to start working on. If we want to cultivate a healthy future and a healthy generation for not just our kids, but the kids around us, we have to start working on ourselves. We have to start freeing ourselves and giving ourselves space to heal. And I understand that sounds like a mountain to climb over, but we have to start doing something somewhere. We have to start creating a healthy nervous system because remember guys, that's what regulates everything. And when it comes to stress and adaptation and healing and life, the nervous system is key. And if we're not doing something for that, if we're just so focused on everybody else, and I know it's easy as parents, it's easy for us to just be so focused on our kids or so focused on work or so focused on blank that we get so our system gets so stuck in that creates a fight or flight state, that we get so stuck in that and our body creates a subconscious pattern around that. And the problem is our kids are doing that. Our kids are mirroring that. So for those of you that are what's one way to help make sure that I don't pass those things down generationally? It's start working on yourself and your kids will mirror that. And now here's what I want to talk about between routines and rhythms. So we often use words routine and rhythm and interchange them. And I want you to understand, again, routine can be good, but routine can many times turn into a very rigid scheduled, externally imposed thing. It's like parents hey, you have to stick to this thing, where rhythm is internal and it's flexible and it's very life-giving. And when kids live in a rhythm with time to wake up naturally, move their bodies the way they want, eat when their body's telling them to eat, rest when they're tired, their nervous system relaxes. It engages their parasympathetic nervous system. Guys, this is the area rest and digest. That's the key words there. You have to have an activated parasympathetic nervous system for healing, learning, and emotional regulation to happen. Okay, so how do we do that? What are things that we can start to do to create that? I think some of them are anchoring to predictable moments, right? So try to pay attention more. Like, I'm not saying that you're not paying attention enough to your kids. I'm not trying to tell any parent out there that you're doing a bad job. You guys are doing awesome jobs. I think that we can get better. We can all get better. And these are ways that we can help get better for our kids. And so one of those is just staying anchored to predictable moments. Most parents can know, like, oh, yeah, like they're going to be hungry by X time. Like my kids, for instance, when it gets to close to 4:30, my kids are like, that's usually when they start wanting food. It's when they want to eat, so it's like paying attention to those predictable things. Consistent wake times, when does my kids typically are trying to go to bed? I get it. Now, creating routines will also help guide them on their rhythms, right? So when we're trying to help them make sure they're getting enough sleep, right? But also like having regular family time. This will help build security, also reduce cortisol spikes in kids. They feel safe around you, man. That's kind of why they get a little crazy around you too. I mean, my kids do that. When they feel safe around you, they get a little weird and crazy. But for instance, like mornings are typically like time that kids want movement. They want sunlight. They want to be active. That's where serotonin levels are high, and they're activating and they're producing, spreading throughout the body. Afternoons are typically where like we kind of wind down. Like that's where it's a good time for creativity, reading, learning. Usually you have to have movement to engage your brain to allow the learning process to enhance itself. Evenings are great for like family time. Again, calming, like that helps the nervous system. I think one is protecting space for boredom. So many kids have so much going on all the time. They don't really ever have time to be bored. And boredom actually stimulates that same part of the brain, your default mode network, which again helps create creativity and self-regulation and all of those healthy patterns that we just talked about. Like, so again, like boredom can actually help your kids do that, and I think also one thing that we forget about, and that we've been guilty of this too, is building a Sabbath through your week. So one day a week that feels a little different, not doing just letting nature take its course in that day. This helps the body reset into like deep parasympathetic tone. And it helps change long-term immune system health and neurodevelopment as well. So I think it's easy for us to go all the time. I think we need to do ourselves a favor as families and for kids and set that boundary. So how does this play a role in that, right? How does what we do in our office play a role in that? And we focus primarily on the nervous system, because the nervous system is the master control center. It controls everything. It helps balance that fight or flight state, sympathetics versus parasympathetics. And how do we find the healthy balance for you so that your kid can actually live within a healthy homeostatic area? But also looking at this, it helps them when your system is balanced and you're not stuck in fight or flight, or you're also not stuck in a parasympathetic state, your kid can actually adapt to its environment well. And this is where we see kids that come in that have a history of emotional or behavior outbursts. I remember one kid who started, and I didn't even know this until after his parents told me, but he started care, started getting adjusted. They started to see his, and you could even see it, his breathing would change on the table. He'd be breathing hard and then it would slow down, which was a perfect example of the parasympathetic system setting in. And a few weeks after he started, he's like, his parents go, "Hey, I never told you guys this, but he was literally about to get kicked out of his preschool because of his temper tantrums, and he was fighting, and he was biting other kids, and he was doing this or X, Y, or Z." So they were like, we were really worried about what our next steps were. And then we happened upon this, and his demeanor completely changed. And he no longer was aggressive. And it's because his nervous system was able to find a healthy balance so it could regulate those things. And guys, this is what we want for everybody. It's what we want for our kids. Like, this is how we create healthy generations. But if we're not actually checking where our kids are because we don't see it every day. It's hard to measure where your nervous system is, where that balance is. So if you're not able to, it's hard to make changes that way, and if you don't know where it's at. And that's what we're doing, is we're helping restore balance to the autonomic nervous system, especially the vagus nerve, because that's primarily where our rest and digest is. And so regular adjustments during these times of the summer, while your kids are creating a healthy rhythm, it's just going to help recalibrate their brain's capacity so they can do it and adjust to it more. And so for those of you that are hearing this and you're like fired up and you're like, oh my gosh, like this is right up my alley, like, or I want to know where my kids' stress levels are, or how stress is affecting my child, or how I can help them adapt to these changes and transitional times. Those of you that are already here, know that you're doing the right thing by your kid by getting them adjusted regularly. And those that are not, and you're intrigued by this, like, I implore you guys to come check us out. Like we can help your family have full restoration in their life. And so if that's right, please reach out to us. Please do. That's my time. I'm Dr. Josh. And as always, let's grow together.